In this video, I'm going to show you how to use stripper to get down through stain and varnish and give your piece a fresh, clean, new start. All right, let's talk about a few supplies that you're gonna need to get this project done. So you'll definitely need stripper. I am using today one called Soy Gel. It's actually made from soybeans, and so it's natural and it's safer than a lot of other strippers out there. It's also not super smelly, so if you have limited ventilation, this would be a good option for you. I found it online and I've used it a few times before, and it's always worked the best for me, so I'm going to use it in this case as well. You'll definitely need a pair of gloves, a couple scrapers. A plastic one is really helpful so you don't gouge the wood. I do like to have a metal one handy just for those spots that you might need a little bit more grit to it to kind of get in there. This table I'm working on today is really flat, so I'm not super worried about gouging it. So have both options handy. You'll also need a chip brush or a brush that you can just throw away when you're done. It's definitely not worth cleaning with stuff out. Also a little container to pour your stripper in. And I like to have either a paper plate or a piece of cardboard to scrape off all the goo to get it off my knife. So have something like that handy. And then definitely cover your work area, the floor, with newspaper, cardboard, the brown craft paper, just something that you can roll up and throw away. This process does tend to be pretty messy, so just be prepared for that in advance. Do be sure you have good ventilation no matter what kind of stripper you're working with. And I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm gonna use my metal scraper. I've got some paint on this table, so I'm just gonna kind of scrape it off here real quick, just a little bit. Anything that's kind of raised, go ahead and get it off if you can. And then we are going to pour a generous amount in this container. And even if your stripper kind of comes in a bucket, it's a good idea to have a separate container so you don't contaminate the stripper in the container. You probably won't use all of it. And then we are going to apply a really thick layer. This is just kind of goopy. It's really, honestly, the consistency of snot. So it goes on really nice and thick, but don't spread it around too much. You need it thick enough for it to really do its job and begin to eat away at the layer of varnish and paint and stain and whatever else you got on there. This one in particular is good for lots of different finishes. It's even good on, it said cement and stone. So you can use this particular stripper for a lot of different things, but just check which one you're gonna use. Make sure it's right for your project. So we're just getting a nice big layer of goop on there. Again, it's really not very smelly. I find stripping to be a very messy process, so it is not my go-to option for refinishing furniture. There are a few cases where you really want something. Usually if it's more detailed and you cannot get a sander to it. However, if I wasn't demonstrating on this particular table how to strip, I would use a sander to sand down to a raw finish. That being said, I think we are going to get a pretty cool finish on this when we scrape off the stain. It's going to be kind of that, the popular finish right now is kind of the natural scraped look with some of the stain kind of still in the grain of the wood. So I think we are going to get a really cool table. But this is just, it's just not my favorite thing to do, if I'm completely honest. We're gonna try one little experiment within this tutorial. There is something you can do to help the stripper not evaporate from your piece if you feel like it's just kind of evaporating or it's drying out too quickly before it's actually working. We're gonna add some plastic wrap to the top of this because I noticed in a few places it's getting a little thin, which I'm not sure if it's drying too quick or I just didn't add enough. So we're gonna add a tiny bit more up here on this top, and I'm gonna actually put down plastic wrap straight on top of the stripper And like I say, that's just gonna help it all sit so it doesn't dry out before the process actually happens. Okay, it's been about half an hour, 45 minutes. We've let it sit, and I can definitely tell that things are happening. So we're gonna go ahead and start scraping. Depending on how many layers or how thick your varnish is on your piece, it may take longer for it to soak in. It also could potentially take a couple of coats. So you may come in with the first coat, scrape it off, and you may have to do a second one. So let's just see what this looks like. We're gonna pull back the plastic and then grab our scrapers. And I think the plastic does just help keep it in place. I'm gonna use my plastic scraper first. Let's see what happens here. And you can see all that goop and gunk and the stain. And it's even taken up most of this paint here as well. All right, this did pretty well and pretty quick because it cut through not only this layer of paint, but the stain and the varnish underneath it. So pretty happy with that. Don't forget we've got the newspaper down on the floor. So as this is just making a giant mess here, it's going on the paper. Okay, you can see all of the stain and crud we've gotten off of this table, and there's quite a bit here on the floor too. This is really it's just a messy process. Now what we're gonna do is remove the stripper that's still on here. So we scraped everywhere, took off a good layer, but there's still some on here. So I'm gonna take just a paper towel and wipe everything down. All right, we wiped it down with a paper towel and got most of the goo off. Now this stuff, because it's soy gel, recommends using a degreaser to kind of clean up the residue that's on here. I'm using Crud Cutter. Some of these strippers will recommend using mineral spirits, so just read what it recommends for cleanup. And then I like to use a Scotch-Brite pad and use that kind of as just a final layer to scrub it up a little bit. You'll get a little bit more color off. Do you see that coming off? And get down to the finish there. So now it's just into the cleanup mode. There we go. We're getting some pretty color with that. Also, if you wanted to do another layer of stripper, if you were not happy with the color that was coming out, you would do that before you would clean it with the Crud Cutter. So after you wipe it with the paper towels, if you feel like it still needs another layer, go ahead and add another layer of stripper and just repeat the process. And then when you're happy with the color, this is the final step of just getting it all cleaned up. Once it's really good and cleaned off, we will just let this dry and let it dry for a good bit of time before you either seal it or restain it. I'm gonna give this probably at least 24 hours, just so all the product on it has some time to really dry. If you like the color that it is, which I think I kind of like this table, I might just seal it up with a water-based sealer so it doesn't change color again, and let it be. Okay, I'm just gonna finish cleaning this up, take it outside to sit in the sunshine, and give it a good coat of sealer, and then that's about it. So I would love to know from you in the comments below, would you rather spend the time stripping a piece of furniture or sanding it down to raw wood? So let me know in the comments. I would love to find out. And until then, we'll see you next time. Bye guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out my website, rootsandwingsfurniture.com, for more painting tips and tricks and DIY. Also, subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss a thing. Click the button below.